Folks, hello and welcome to Talking Crit, where we generally just talk shit. In any case, I am Eric Tenkar, your bartender in the OSR. Directly below me is none other than Bad Mike Battlelotto, most famously of North Texas.
Hello. I'm pimping my buddies at Red River Con tonight, by the way. So,
there we
actually,
go.
which doesn't exist anymore. It's actually Long Con. So check out, if you're in Texas, check out Long Con. I'm going in the fall. So
And on your screen, to my right, which gets confusing when you're doing this, but in any case, we have none other than Tom Knauss, writer extraordinaire who apparently pumps out setting-related books that have environments like they're going out of style. This is your wheelhouse. So we will be talking about Tom's latest Kickstarter, and it's not from Frog God Games. So how's that?
Shocking! I'm shocked because I thought you just worked for us exclusively. What's going on?
No, actually, this was a Frog God project that kind of got resurrected from the dead. So,
well, make us pay. Make us pay. Say you're going to pay.
Yeah, you're going to pay. Well, actually, they're probably going to pay me this time. So that's all good.
So for those that don't know, Tom has written so much stuff for Frog. That's not even funny. He wrote the Environments books, which are excellent books. I wish they weren't Pathfinder because they're so good that you can really use them for. They were kind of stats light. You can really use them for almost anything. But so I've known Tom. A little while. We mostly meet at conventions and stuff. Anyway, I got two good Tom stories just to start this off.
And Tom does not know these.
He doesn't. Sorry, but he'll like both of them. So one of them, a few years ago, we were doing. We went to Gary Con. It was the infamous Pathfinder by the pound sale.
Yes.
Where we were trying to clear out our Pathfinder, and we brought a scale, and Zach and I brainstormed this idea, and we were selling Pathfinder by the pound. It was the hit of the con. People were going up and buying stacks. We're getting dirty looks from the Paizo people, absolutely, because we were devaluing.
It was awesome.
Dirty looks. So we go like to lunch, or I can't remember where we go. We all went somewhere, and Tom was at the booth alone. We came back, and every freaking piece of Pathfinder was gone. And to this day, I don't know what the fuck this guy did. But he must have pulled a salesman type job. I mean, we were gone a few hours, but it was just all gone. We were like, where's the Pathfinder stuff? He's like, oh, I sold it all. I'm like, what? How? I mean, we didn't believe you. We thought you just gave it away or something. It was all gone. But somehow this dude, he hit that path. I mean, I don't know what you did. You just go to people and like, Pathfinder, come on, buy some Pathfinder. It's just £4, $4.
I made him an offer they couldn't refuse.
He is from New Jersey.
That's true.
That's right. So I actually took some of the books and I actually stood in front of the booth while you guys were gone and waved them around. I said, hey, Pathfinder by the pound, come on. No good deal will be refused. And people were coming up. And
So
they were just like putting on the pounds. I think I knocked off about 3 or 4 of those Northland sagas.
Oh,
I think they were like $20.
Oh, God.
It got even worse.
It's a good book, but it's just so huge.
I just happen to have one right here.
I know.
They're gigantic.
I was saying, I actually made like a kind of deal. I said, I'll give it to you even for half price if I flip to a page and you can get within 10 pages of Northland Saga, which page I flipped to.
Oh, my God.
One person did. Everyone else didn't, but the one person did. I'm like,
we didn't care. We just wanted that stuff gone.
Yeah.
We wanted it so gone that.
Well, actually, it's funny because circle around to what we're going to talk about in a bit. The story was that we were going to do the Kickstarter for the book we're going to talk about shortly after that Gary Con you're talking about, and everything got deep sixed.
Yep.
Once that announcement was made that there would be no more support for Pathfinder 1, we're going to Pathfinder 2. It was like, oh, holy smokes, we've got this Pathfinder Kickstarter about to kick off, and now it's going to be colossally.
And we got that. We had to pull it. I remember there was very unhappy faces in the Frog God because we were not warned of this. This was just kind of, hey, by the way, we were told. First of all, everybody was told there was never be a Pathfinder 2, so we thought we're okay. And we usually you get a heads up, like, hey, you might not want to be working so hard on that one, but so there might be an announcement next year. Nope, they did not tell us a thing. They just sprang that on us, which is unfortunate. Well, the other story I want to tell about Tom is that. So now this is funny because what you were just talking about earlier. So one time on the Discord. Tom and I were guests on a show with two other gentlemen. It was Rob Conley, and I can't remember the other guy.
I can't remember.
And I don't know how did we get sucked into this, but it was about VTTs and gaming.
Yes.
And what I know about VTTs and gaming can fit on the head of this finger right here. And so so it's four of us. So we get on there and start talking, and Tom and I are we're just texting back and forth going, what the hell are they talking about? I mean, we have no clue. We're not talking. For 2 hours straight, we don't even talk. We just kind of go, uh-huh. Or we nod or we smile and say, oh, that's okay. And we have no clue what's going on. I mean, they're getting so technical. You know Rob Conley, Eric. I mean, he's just like, he's getting super technical. The other guy's getting technical, and Tom and I are just like crickets. We're just like, I can't add anything meaningful to this conversation. But I just thought it was so funny because we just kept IMing back and forth going, do you know what they're talking about? No, I do not. What are they talking about? I have no clue. What are we supposed to do? I don't know. Let's just sit here and say yes every once in a while. I don't know. But that was hilarious. Man.
I just pretended that I was one of the audience. So I was like asking them questions because I had no idea what they're talking about. They're talking about all this like really super deep techie stuff.
Very detailed. It was not for the layman. It was very detailed. And that's probably the only time I've ever been on a show when I just absolutely wanted to nope out. And I was just like, I mean, if I could have done this, I would have pretended my internet connection broke. But I didn't want to leave Tom by himself in there because I knew if I did that, he'd be like, you son of a bitch.
Yeah, if I could have found a tag team partner, I would have definitely tagged out.
Oh, God.
I've got this bad internet connection.
Yeah. If Tom hadn't been there, I would have noped out so quick because those guys left us in the dust. And that was just funny, though. I remember that. And afterwards, you're even going, oh, my God, what was that about? Why were we on this show? What were we doing on this show?
I had no idea. And I think we're supposed to talk about topics. And a lot of the Discord shows, you're supposed to talk about the topics beforehand. And I think it was like 4 or 5 topics. And one of them just happened to be like VTTs. And Rob and this other guy went on for a good hour plus.
It was at least an hour. It was longer.
We're just sitting there
we just have nothing.
Right. I was texting Mike, I have nothing to add to this conversation other than I know nothing about this topic.
Exactly. You're right, because we first, at a certain point, we just started asking them questions because obviously we don't know anything. So we're just going, okay, well, so I'm a dumb person. So tell me what this means. And even then, their explanation went over my head. And I'm like, I don't know.
Okay.
So anyway, those were my two funny Tom stories.
That's it.
Tom's a good guy. Tom's a good guy. He's funny. He's a fun guy. He looks kind of mean. He's all buff and ripped, and he's from the East Coast. So you think he's like a mobster or something. But no, he's a really nice guy. He's
everybody from our state knows a guy.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I personally know several guys. So
I don't know. And if you don't know a guy directly, you know a guy
indirectly. You know somebody who knows somebody who knows a guy.
Right. You can get things that fall off trucks. Because trucks lose things constantly,
or things that need to be buried in the pine barrens. Might want to stick something out there and forget about it for a while.
Yeah, that used to happen when we were kids. My dad worked in an inner city school, inner city high school, and the joke always was something fell off the back of a truck, which was one of his students probably stole it and then gave it to the teachers. We had all this crap, all this junk we didn't need because it quote unquote fell off the back of a truck. So.
Well, I think the statute of limitations is long gone. And
you're good.
Story I will tell. Yeah. So after 9/11, our precinct, the 401 precinct, covered Hunts Point. And Hunts Point is a huge market in New York City. It's a wholesale market. A lot of food comes through. So they were great. They were donating all this meat, steaks, chicken, Frank's, burgers to feed cops, to the point where they had to give us refrigerators and freezers that were lining the halls of the precinct just to store it, and we were distributing it to other commands in the Bronx. But we had no way to prepare this. So one day, literally, dropped off by a truck were 3 brand new grills, and we were like, where did they come from? I don't know. They fell off a truck. A truck was delivering it, telling us it fell off a truck.
Yeah.
Who am I to say?
It fell off, unwrapped itself, some propane popped on there, and there it was. It was just ready to roll.
So
it's mysterious how that happens. It's like magical.
Yes, I don't know. Apparently, trucks drop things all the time. The worst, usually, what I see is like it's an 18-wheel losing your wheel on a truck, and you like duck as you're driving. You're like, I'm gonna drive over that shit. It ain't gonna be pleasant.
So Tom, we have Tom on because we were heard through the grapevine that he had a Kickstarter, and we'd like to help our friends out with Kickstarters, and that's one thing we love. Before we had the NTRPG Con guests, 5 weeks of NTRPG Con guests, plus last week our wrap up, we were doing some pretty cool Kickstarter talks. So we're back. We're going to get back into that. We're going to start doing some more Kickstarters, and this is the book that Tom mentioned. This is Icebound. This was supposed to be a Pathfinder book for Frog God that Paizo kicked us in the nads, and luckily we found out. Thank God we found out before it was published, because it would have been awful. But tell us about this, and tell us about the other environment books you've done also.
Well, so the first 4 were packaged as being the Perilous Vistas books, and that was Dunes of Desolation, Fields of Blood, Mountains of Madness, and Marshes of Malice. And they were all environmental-centric books. They had some adventures in them. They had a lot of Pathfinder crunchy stuff. They also had a lot of scientific stuff. So I had one friend who bought Mountains of Madness, and he was reading through, and he's like, oh my God, like the detail and the levels of talking about how mountains are formed, the types of mountains, and what creates them. I'm like, who the frig wrote this? He goes, oh God, it was you. So he saw me in a con. I'm like, oops, sorry. So Icebound was supposed to be, quote unquote, I guess the last of the Perilous Vistas books. So like we were just talking about before in the story about what happened with GaryCon, was that this Kickstarter was literally going to launch within maybe 1 or 2 days after GaryCon for Pathfinder, while we still had a pretty good Pathfinder base of fans. And once that got announced, it just was like, okay, yeah, this is not happening. So it kind of got put on the back burner, obviously, and pretty much just went into, for lack of a better term, deep freeze. And then what happened was, maybe like 2 or 3 weeks ago, Mike Mars Russell reached out to me and said, hey, what would you do for Icebound? I'm like, I don't, if you want to do something with it, go for it. Because I know that we're not doing anything with it because it's Pathfinder 1 and nothing's happening with it. So it's like, are you okay with doing a Kickstarter for it? I'm like, yeah, sure, go for it. So, initially the goal was set fairly low. I mean, the expectations were, maybe we'll fund, maybe we won't fund. I don't really know. So he gave it like $1,000, and it turns out we're at like 3,300, which, yes, by Frog God or, a lot of other company standards is pretty low, but by something that, was done for a first-time publisher producing this material is actually pretty impressive. So,
you're at 30, just under 35. That's actually not bad.
34, 5.
Well, it just went up. So thank you. Yeah. Thank you out there, whoever pledged.
These books are really good. These books are really good, even if you don't play Pathfinder, because I have looked through them. Matter of fact, I was just digging through Deserts of Desolation. Oh, it's over in here somewhere. Oh, nope, that's right. Dunes of Desolation. I'm sorry, Dunes of Desolation.
Big difference.
Oh dear. And no, because there's so much stuff in there that's not any kind of edition related. It's just general information about environments, and it is very interesting. It's scientific, but it's kind of cool because you realize that one of the things that in a DM's bag of tricks that they often don't realize is you can use the environment against characters, and not just monsters. I mean, think about these guys walking along in full armor or riding the horses. All kinds of bad things that can happen to you if you're going through a marsh or on a mountain or in a desert. And these books are really good for bringing out the fact that, wow, when it gets this hot, you can't really be wearing plate mail because something really bad. You're going to have really bad things happen to you unless you've got some kind of magic. These are really, really good books. It was too bad that Icebound never came out, but I'm glad to see that's finally going to come out. So.
Yeah, I'm also pleased to see it come out. I really think, honestly, it's the best of all of them. When we were doing it, it was really to keep a very, very tight rein because some of them you kind of had to stray a little bit in order to generate enough material for it. But for Icebound, it's very, very focused on cold environments. So all the spells, all the magic items, all of the crunchy bits are very cold focused. I think there's a spell. If I remember, there's a spell called Absolute Zero, which is basically you reduce the temperature in an area to absolute zero, and all the things that happen because you do that. Everything gets frozen solid. Even the air gets frozen solid at that temperature. So, obviously it's a very high level spell, but it was designed to also, take that into account and basically put something into cryogenic freeze. So, like I said, the first 3 to 4 chapters really focus on why is it cold at the poles? Because most people, if I walk to the average person on the street and said, why is it cold in the North Pole? They're going to have zero idea. They're just going to look at me blankly and say, I don't know, because it's north. Okay, or it doesn't get the sun. Well, okay, but for the summer, it's daylight all day long pretty much. So that doesn't make a lot of sense. So this really explains why the poles are so cold. And really explains a lot of the difference. Like I try to go a little difference of why the South Pole is so much colder than the North Pole. Because the North Pole isn't land. Most people think the North Pole is land because we've been taught, Santa Claus lives in the North Pole and the reindeers and the elves are up there and they make toys and blah, 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 blah. And all we see is this ice, but really that's just ice sitting on top of the Arctic Ocean.
So wait a second. You're telling me that I've been lied to my whole life?
I'm not telling you to lie. I never said that was not real. I'm just simply saying that because Santa Claus is there, it's much warmer because the elves can't work at minus 100 degrees Fahrenheit.
There we go. Okay.
I was so he's north, but maybe not at the actual north. Maybe it's the magnetic North Pole, which really isn't the North Pole.
Right, it's a magnetic and a geographic North Pole. There's 2 different North Poles.
Right. So if my niece Shannon is watching, of course she likes to see Uncle Curse. And hi Shannon.
Poor
yes,
kid.
fuck there. I just dropped the F-bomb for you.
Oh.
Sorry.
Oh man.
Listen,
My family's not allowed to watch, although my wife watches sometime, but she won't be watching tonight, so we can get crazy.
Yeah, okay. Cool.
Crazier than usual?
My wife, so she watches the second, so she only watches the second hour because she's got church the first hour. And so I think it's hilarious. She always comes in and her comment is always this, you don't ever let the special guest talk at all. I'm like, honey, that's what the first hour is. You missed the whole first hour because she's still mad at us. We didn't let Ben Barsh talk, Eric. She thinks we have made Ben Barsh shut up. Because we talked the whole first hour about his Kickstarter, and it was only when the second hour we started talking about stuff. It was Ben's fault because I don't know, was he talking about the Detroit Lions or something we didn't want to hear about? It was something stupid.
Yeah, he was talking sports.
Do you really need to talk to Ben? Aren't you just there to admire his hair?
Well, we did that. That was a good part. That was a good part of the show, definitely.
Okay.
So yeah, so she always thinks we're mean to our guests. We're not. We're just first hour is all the guests. This is going to be all Tom Knauss first hour. Whatever you want to talk about. You don't even have to talk about whatever you want to talk about. I mean, actually, I want to ask you something that I've always wondered about because I kind of came in on Frog God. I've only been here a few years. I mean, I've been buying since the beginning, but I always see this name Tom Knauss and everything. And I want to ask you a question. We can talk about Icebound too, but I have this question. How did you end up writing almost every adventure in the Quest to Doom 4? How many? How many adventures? There was 14 adventures, right? 16?
Yeah, I wrote like 7 or 8 of them.
You wrote over half the adventures of Quest to Doom 4.
Yeah.
What the hell? What the hell was that about? Why did you write so? Why did they make you write so many?
Well, first of all, they didn't really make me write so many. What happened was they took the adventures that appeared in Dunes of Desolation, Fields of Blood, and Mountains of Madness, and they converted them and made them part of that Kickstarter. So it wasn't I wrote 7 brand new adventures exclusively for that Kickstarter. They took adventures that I had done for those previous books, converted them to 5e, and converted them to Swords of Wizardry, and released them as part of that Kickstarter.
So what you're telling me is you didn't get paid for those.
I will neither confirm nor deny.
Oh, okay. Well, I hope that means yes then, because I hate to think that she's like, oh, okay, hey, we don't have to pay Tom again for these. We already paid him once. Let's just roll with this.
Well, the scary thing though is, if you think about it, is that in addition to the 7 adventures that appear as the Quest of Doom 4, Quest of Doom 3 has 7 adventures.
Yep.
5 of them I wrote.
Yes, you did. I saw that the other day too when I was going through my book.
So
Yeah.
of that book, of the Quest of Doom 3 and 4, I wrote about 65 to 70% of those adventures. That's freaking scary, man.
Yeah.
And there were adventures in those books that they didn't use for either of those books. It's frightening.
Wow.
Yeah. So
Well,
I think Casey and I have the joke about who wrote more words for Froggot, either me or him. I'm still going to go for him because he did do a lot of the stuff well, if you want to count the Necromancer stuff, he definitely probably has me beat. But if you want to just count pure Froggot stuff, yeah, I've definitely got him beat. For sure.
And if those don't know, I don't know if it's a huge secret. If it is, it's tough luck. But Casey's sort of Bill Webb's ghostwriter. Wink, wink. So if it says by Bill Webb,
I'm glad you said it.
It's probably by Bill Webb and Casey Christopherson. And because Bill has told me, he's told many people before that Casey writes as close to him as anybody else. So he found somebody that writes like him to help finish up stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
that's why he doesn't call me, because I probably write exactly opposite of what Bill does.
Yeah, if you don't sound like Bill, you don't get that job. Sorry.
No, I don't sound like Bill when I write stuff. It's like totally different.
Nice. As we all take a slight breath.
So I want to ask you something else about the Icebound. So what do you have going after this? So that you got this. This is actually something you wrote years ago. I guess I'm sure you polished up everything. So what do you have going currently? What are you working on for the near future?
Currently, really nothing. Things have kind of dried up a bit. There's a bit of a backlog, let's say. So I'm kind of just like playing a lot of golf and going skiing during the winter. So
holy crap.
Yeah, so I'm kind of just sitting around a little bit. I have a few little minor small things going on, but nothing like, gigantic. So
you sound retired. What's that? You sound like you're retired.
I'm not retired. From my real job, I have 2 years, 1 month, and 25 days till I can retire.
Oh, well,
wow.
then
Oh my
gosh.
gosh.
Yeah, all right. You sound like somebody I used to know.
You have to be retiring early because you're still young, and I think that so you and Tom. So there has to be a contest someday between you and Tom Wilson to see who's the most physically fit man in gaming or old school
gaming.
Me.
No,
it's not. It's between him and Tom Wilson. It really is. Those two guys. Okay. Those two guys are ripped. I mean, Tom. I don't know if you heard about Tom. Tom is basically joined the fire department at age whatever he is now. He passed all their fire stuff, and then every time I see a picture of you online, you're lifting weights or you're doing something physical. It just tires me out just looking at your picture.
It's actually funny you said that because I go to the gym a lot. I go like 5 days a week. I probably do like 7 or 8 classes a week.
Wow.
And there's another guy in the gym. He's like 27, and he's going for the fire department and the Marines. And I'm 54. So we were doing a class at the end, and then the instructor says, all right, we're going to finish class up with plank. So I said, all right, the guy's name is Gerard. I said, all right, Gerard, let's see who can plank longer, me or you? And he's like, okay. So we're sitting there planking, and I don't know if you know what a plank is, right? Where you put your elbows down, you hold your chin up. So we're sitting there, a minute goes by, neither of us is budging. A minute and a half goes by, neither of us is budging. I'm like, oh, crap. So we hit the 2-minute mark, and I just see him start to quiver. Like, oh, yes, he's going to throw the towel in. So he quit at like 2 minutes, like 5 seconds, and just to show him up, I planked for 3 minutes.
Oh, come on.
And I could have kept going a little longer, but I was like, he started tickling me to make me stop. So I'm like, okay. So
you already humiliated him. So
I know. I humiliated this young 27-year-old kid. So I'm like, okay.
Nice. I like it when we get one in on the kids. That's always
I know. It's cool.
Half your age.
I know. Half my age. I know. I tell them at the gym, I said, you know what? I'm older than your dad, probably. And not just in certain states.
So John Miller had a question here. Eric, you want to read that off there?
You can. Go ahead.
Okay. John Miller says, some questions for Tom. How did you get started in gaming? So that's interesting because I think you and I talked about this once, but that's a pretty interesting story. Why don't you let us know what your start was?
I know I've talked about this with Eric before.
Yes.
We lived in a town and we had a next door neighbor, and she had some friends she had a friend who had 3 kids around our age who were from New York City. I'm from New Jersey. And they went to one of the prestigious high schools there. So they showed up one day when we were all hanging around. They says, "Oh, we found this new game that people are playing. It's called Dungeons and Dragons. Me and my brother, do you want to play?" I'm like, "Okay, we'll try it." So we started at like 9 o'clock in the morning. And the next thing I remember is my mom calling what we called her our aunt, at like 7 o'clock at night and saying, "Where are the kids? I haven't seen them all day." And we were like, "What? At 7 o'clock?" We're like, 10 hours have passed. It felt like 20 minutes went by. So we played Keep on the Borderlands for the first time. I remember it very distinctly. And from there, I was hooked. My brother played for a little while, and then he kind of like stopped. So that's how I got started. I mostly play 5e. I do not play Pathfinder anymore, largely because of the lack of support. Largely because also, too, we kind of found, well, I already figured that out, but that the numbers kind of fall apart at a higher level, much less than 5e. So we kind of stuck with that. So right now I am playing 5e, but my go-to game at a con, if you ask me what I want to run at a convention, I will tell you 99.9% of the time it will be Call of Cthulhu.
Oh wow,
Nice.
that's cool. Now, I'm going to ask you something. So we're going to ask some tough questions here, Tom.
All right.
So what do you? So what is your opinion of Pathfinder 2.0? You're a Pathfinder 1.0 kind of guy. You've written for it. What did you think when it came out, and what do you think about Pathfinder 2.0 now?
I went through the preview, the original playtest book and the guides and everything else. And I thought it had some good ideas, but I think it really didn't address the major problems of Pathfinder, which was the fact that I thought it broke down at very high levels, that it just became so bogged down in math and numbers and bonuses that it was very difficult to create a challenge without ridiculously buffing up the monsters and opponents and that sort of thing. So I don't really think it addressed that very well. And once I saw that, I was kind of like, because I like the modularity of Pathfinder. I thought the modularity of it was incredibly well done, how you could mix and match and be, a third level bard, a fourth level wizard, third level thief, and it's worked pretty seamlessly. Whereas 5e, it feels kind of clunky when you do that. So once it didn't accomplish, though, that main goal that I was looking for, which was to address let's call it the power creep or power curve, and I kind of was like, I'll stick with 5e. So that's my rundown basically on Pathfinder 2.
When does it start falling apart, you think, at higher levels, the Pathfinder?
I would say the sweet spot for Pathfinder is probably between 4th and 8th to 9th level. Once you get to the point where certain character classes have 3 attacks per round, it becomes very difficult. And the spells become very powerful. And the spellcasters become, have a wide repertoire of spells that it becomes very difficult to keep track of. And, the numbers and the fact that a high level spellcaster could have, 7 or 8 spells going at once, and you're going to kind of keep track of how long they last, which ones are in effect, that it became very cumbersome.
And then, that was actually, the funny thing is, as much as I don't really like Pathfinder because I think it's way too fiddly, you had a lot of those same problems in first edition D&D because
I was going to say the same thing.
Once your characters got to 12th level, your only solution as DM is to throw more monsters at them because you couldn't get anything more powerful than them. God knows you didn't want to throw a party of adventurers, their level loaded down with magic at the party, because if they killed them, they got all their magic items and they're like twice as powerful. So you ended up just saying, okay, instead of 2 vampires in this room, I'm going to throw 7 in there because the cleric's going to turn 2, and then they're going to do, and then the magic's is going to incinerate this guy. So I want to at least have, and that's why most of the time, even with D&D, my favorite levels are the low levels. Then you have a little fun at mid levels, and you probably run a few adventures once you get about name level, about 10th, 12th. But after that, man, it's just that's really hard to keep your characters or your players engaged after about 12th level. They want to start over too. They're like, I've got everything. I'm ruling this kingdom and I'm doing this, and nothing can really stand against me. So yeah, let's start this. Let's start at first level. I want to know what it's like again to have a short sword and 12 copper pieces, and go
that's
through
why you have name. That's why you have name level. Name level is usually when your characters are hitting somewhere around 5th or 6th level spells. They've maxed out in their hit dice, and you've gotten to that point in the game where the challenges are become like political. I mean, when I used to run higher level games,
right,
they had to become political because dice rolling was pointless at that point.
Mm-hmm.
But again, all you were doing was just adding more goodies that made things go out of bounds in the next fucking session.
I mean, your players said they're going, oh yeah, another staff of the Magi. That's 3.
I'll file with the others.
Well, I've always had a theory that I think because they say, well, if you don't play higher levels, you never get to use the high level spells. But I've always had a theory that high level magic is for the bad guys. It's actually not. It's for the liches and stuff. Spells 7th level and above are really. They're really not meant to be used in the game. They are super powerful. They're really powerful. They're meant to be found on scrolls, so you can have a one-time only attack if you really need it, or they're meant for the bad guy liches or high priests to use against you. They're not really meant for you, for you to use, because some of those high-level spells in the player's handbook are nasty. So that's interesting that Pathfinder kind of had the same dynamic going there, where everything just kind of falls apart. Falls apart at level 12. You can't really challenge the party, and that's interesting.
I think you can and you can't. The problem becomes that if you played a game with limited number of magic items, you could make it competitive. Like, I'll give you the perfect example. Greg ran a section of Slumbering Czar for us at NTRPG for 12th level characters. We all had pre-gens, so we didn't come with a character loaded down with magic items and abilities and everything else like that. And it was still very competitive. The problem becomes in a campaign game, in a home game, where characters are expecting a steady diet of magic items and this, that, and the other thing that, it's very difficult. If you're handing, if this character has been through, I don't know how many, let's say 1 adventure per level, has been through 12 adventures, and they've accumulated this vast repertoire of items, it's much different than a pre-gen who may have 5 or 6. And,
and they're not very
weapons or armor. So,
I mean, to me, I remember that was eye-opening when I got G123 back in the day, and it was like, and all the original adventures were tournament adventures, and they always had the pre-gens in the back, and I'm like, this is a party of adventurers. They're like level 10 using a +2 sword. I mean, our +10s had +3 minimum, +4 most likely. Mm-hmm. It's like what the hell? But I mean, that is the way to balance it. But a balance like that doesn't happen in the home campaign.
Well, I'll tell you something I heard from somebody who used to write original D&D back in the first edition days. Because I asked once this shall nameless person, well, why is it that if you run through these TSR written adventures, there's so much magic in it? I mean, if you run some of these series like the B series, that by the time you're 5th level, your magic user has like 5 wands of magic missiles. Got this thing. I said, well, because they weren't ever meant to be run like that. Every TSR adventure is meant to be taken individually, and the items you find in there are what you're supposed to use to complete that adventure only. They never really worked out the problem that if somebody played, let's say, the A series and they went and played the S series, and they went and played the G series, that they would have all this accumulated. That wasn't part of their plan. It was just that you're gonna play this one module. You're playing S2, so here's the stuff you're gonna find there. Everything you find there is gonna help you complete the adventure, and that's why, unfortunately, most first edition, unless you actually didn't use published modules, it became you were overloaded with magic. You had these characters that just had bandoliers of magical swords and wands and scrolls, because you've been through so many pre-gen adventures that all gave you tons of magic. I mean, there's not one single TSR adventure, pre-95 or 85 that just loads you down. Absolutely loads you down.
Right.
Yeah. It's not really a question of being. I see a few questions coming across the chat about being stingy on the magic items, and also whether OD&D was the most overpowered one. It's the problem is the fact that like you said, the designers didn't take into account that the adventurers had accumulated all these items in a previous adventure. My cat is saying hello. He likes to do that.
My cat might be doing the same. Say, are you going to hop up on a table or the desk here, or
Okay.
stay in your climber?
I mean, the fact is that that wasn't taken into account. So, yes, you did come to the game with this whole, like you said, a bandolier of wands, swords. Which armor do I choose? Do I choose the +3 plate, or do I choose +4 chainmail? Because I've got all of them on me. So he was about to step on the keyboard. I didn't know what he was going to do. So
that's okay.
So that
my prior cat would have shown cat ass by now. So.
Oh, that's coming soon. Don't worry. He's probably going to be shaking me down for food very shortly. So
there you go.
But I think that also one of the difficulties I always found with, and here's a true story. I GM'd first edition when I was in high school and college, and we had run a series of adventures. And at the end of it, do you remember those old college ruled notebooks that we used to have? We filled the entire book with magic items that we accumulated on the adventure.
Oh my God. Yeah.
It was like a 30-40 page book, and college ruled, probably about 15-20 lines, and we filled the whole thing with stuff we got. So
I think one of the things that people forget when especially when you're running pre-gen adventures, because we did a lot of those, because I don't know how people had time to write adventures. I mean, honestly, I between college and work, I barely had time to run, pre-written adventures. So we really hardly ever wrote our own. We were just too busy. But there's ways you don't have to play the rules wrong. A lot of people forget, if a character fails a saving throw, all their magic items have to save too. So if you get hit by a fireball, a lot of people forget, if you fail that save, you have to roll for every single thing on that player's character's body. And if you use the rules as written, they're going to probably lose about 10 to 20% of their magic items just blown to pieces.
You want a table flip? Because we had a near table flip doing that.
Yeah, I was going to say, do you want to see a grown man cry?
Here's what I used to do as DM. They knew this would happen if they failed their save. I made them roll. I said, I'm not doing this to you. You're rolling your items. And if you roll a 1, so only 5% chance. If you roll a 1, that item's destroyed. And boy, it would always come down to like, oh, this is my favorite sword. And that 1 would come up, and I would just giggle, and they would just be, it's like, look, I didn't roll. It's like, what was Tim Kask always say? I didn't kill your characters. You killed your character. So that's kind of what I would say. But yeah, I mean, but then, you also, that's why the old game used to have henchmen and hirelings, right? And my group that I'm running through Highfell right now, they've got a pretty good group of henchmen, and when they find extra stuff, they give it away. So they're not sitting there loaded down with all these magic items, which actually becomes a problem if you're not playing your own campaign and you're being stingy with magic. And look, we all like to say that we love low magic campaigns because that's more Robert E. Howard, Conan, that. But honestly, what's the fun of the game if you don't have a bunch of kick-ass magic items, right? You got to have that sword named Wolf Slayer that does this and makes you fly. And then you got to have the magical helmet that, you can see invisible and shoots lasers or whatever. So, that makes the game fun to have kind of, these individual magic items. Just, got to be careful though. Right. The more you give, the more your players are going to just think, oh, well, nothing can hurt us now. I mean, that's,
Right. I think the difference there really is between quality and quantity. I would rather see characters have 3 or 4 really cool items than have them be bogged down with, pulling a wagon cart of 35, pretty good items. I'm saying, like the distinctive item like Sting or,
right.
Whatever other sword you want to have. So if my fighter had this really cool weapon and this really neat armor and 1 or 2 rings, a few really small things, that would be perfectly fine. I think that would be it would be enough to keep you engaged, but it wouldn't be enough to be overpowering. Right. But the point where you hit is where it becomes, I have an entire 3 servants who are dragging all of my magical items with me because there's so many of them, I can't carry them all. So I think that's where the difficulty comes.
But that's a good point, Tom, because I've tried to, at least in the last decade or so, a couple of decades, I've tried to make more individual magic items that are more interesting. Yeah. Like my brother has sword now called Sleigh Ball. I just pulled it out of my ass,
Mhm.
and it has a few powers, but it's great against humans. And when you're attacking humans, you can go into berserk rage, and so he loves pulling out that sword because he likes saying, "Okay, I'm going to pull out Sleigh Ball," because he just loves saying that. And he loves going into berserk rage and possibly killing everybody in his party.
Mhm.
So he has more powerful magic items, but Sleigh Ball is the one he. Oh, gee, the Glazers are doing their own show in our comments, Zach.
Oh, I think it's just
I
that.
saw you,
There's
Zach.
that,
Thomas
yeah.
floating across.
He's doing his own show there. Ha. That's funny. Hey, Zach, you have something called GDZ. Why don't you go back and do that? Or maybe if you did that show a lot, you might catch up to our subscription numbers. Which, by the way, we are well over 500 now.
500 subscribers?
Yep.
537.
Nice.
We gave away $500 last week? Now, and by the way, I thank you for the Glazers for they donated their they won. So Tom, last week we gave away $500 of gift certificates, and we gave a few away at a time. Zach won $100, and his wife won $250.
Wow.
So yeah, boy, we were about to have the party was going to riot. The people there were going to riot, man. We were about to get the place burned down, but they actually pooled them, and they have donated them to a needy gamer, which is awesome. So thanks to the Glazers. I'm sure that's more Jen than Zach. Zach probably wanted to keep it all. But
I will say something about NTRPG and the auction. I was never into auctions, and then when I first got involved with Praga, and I met Zach and Bill and everyone else, and Zach kind of got me involved in the auction. And although I don't bid a ton on the auction, I find it incredibly entertaining. I mean, just watching those big fish, compete against one another, for some obscure item that. I'll be honest, I have no idea what it is. They're talking about, a jade hair. I'm like, really? Somebody made a sculpture or something? Like, no, it's an adventure. It's like, it is? Oh my God. I don't remember that.
What's great about the auction too is there's so much context below the surface going on because you see them kind of giving each other these little side eyes. Like, I'm gonna, and then Getty's always doing this and he's looking at his phone because he's acting like he doesn't care, right? So that's his MO is he does this. And you're like 500, 600, 700. So he's like psyching you out, like, oh my God, this guy doesn't even care. He's like playing, Tetris on his phone. And but they all have their little things they try to use to freak everybody else out. That's what I like watching about the auctions. I like all the gamesmanship that goes on, because they're just trying to basically psych out their opponent, which is great. And by the way, we need you to come to North Texas next year, man. We missed you this year.
No, definitely. I will definitely be there next year. Yeah,
we had a good time. It was great. We had and by the way, for those who are not in the know, Doug is kind of up and around, and he's doing a lot better. I talked to Gary the other day, and so he was able to sit up for many hours and talk to Gary for about 3 hours the other day. So he's on the long road to recovery. It's just going to be a long recovery, but he's doing much better. I really sucks. He had to miss the con, but yeah, we hope he gets better enough to hell. Maybe we'll have him on the show later this year.
Awesome.
Oh, I'd love it.
It'd be nice.
Yeah. I'll tell you, we're not going to have on the show Zach. Yeah.
But I think just going back to the auction for a second, it's also pretty cool to see the tiers because you can tell there's a certain tier. There's like the low level tier, which is those people who, all right, is it $100? Yeah, I'm done. And then there's a tier between like 100 and like 500 to 1,000, and that's probably the widest group. And then there's just like the sharks, and once you start swimming with them, it's like forget it. There's no way I'm beating them.
What I liked about this year is that so usually, like you said, Tom, you have these people, and they're like people like Bill Maher have these lists of everything, everything they have, everything they need. So they're only bidding on the stuff they really need. They don't really care about anything else. They'll bid on really unique stuff or wild stuff. But this year we had as we do every year, we had an easily painting. And the usual guys don't get into that. That's usually the more the artsy guys. So it's kind of fun because you see these people that don't normally bid high. They'll bid on the easily print. This year it went for $5,500 to Alberta Chulik.
I saw that.
Because she loves easily. And so none of the big whales were going to bid against her because she was going to get that painting. But they don't. That's not what they want. They're collecting actual paper products, and so sometimes it's kind of cool. You get different people that jump up I think it was her and Sean Pointer were both bidding against each other, and they're not usually in the auction bidding on anything else. And then you have guys like Alex Kamer, who I've talked to. I mean, Alex Kamer needs like 2 items. I mean, he's basically looking for 2 things. And so he was telling me, because I don't think I'm going to bid on anything. And oddly enough, he ended up bidding on that Volo's Guide, the one with the really rare cover, the black cover. And I think I got up to like, I don't know, $800, maybe more than that. But that was the only thing he bid on, and he just eventually realized it was nicer than the copy he had. So he already had a copy. He just wanted a nicer copy. So yeah, they live in a different world than we do, man. It's not the same world, because I'm looking for bargains when I go to auctions. I want to find a deal, and there at the North Texas one, at least there's no deals to be found. You're not going to find a deal.
No.
Yes. Yeah, I was thinking about the. I think last year I bid on the painting when you did the online auction. And I early on, I threw out a bid of like $500. I'm like, all right, that'd be cool if I get this, but there's zero chance.
You were in it for like 5 minutes, or not even 5 minutes.
Yeah, I was in it for like 5 minutes. It was totally fast. I'm like, okay, whatever. But yeah, that's the most fascinating part of a con for me. Now I go to every auction simply because it's the best entertainment. It's better than a game. It is so amazing watching it, and how everyone talks about. The details of the condition. The condition is also hysterical. Mint shrink is not a condition.
Oh, we had Bill Meinhardt was doing the breakdown, and I disagree with him on one item, I'm afraid, but he was doing the breakdown, which is great, because you Basically have Moses telling you about the 10 Commandments, right? It's Bill Meyer looking at, okay, this is I would say this is very fine. I mean, which is awesome that he did that for us. It was really, really nice. But I had one item there that was very fine plus, if not near mint. And he was like, "No, this is very fine, maybe very fine minus." I'm like, "Whoa, what? Show me." I don't see it. And so he showed me. It's like, if you had a microscope, you would be able to see what he was pointing out to me. We actually have one item that he said was near mint. I can't remember what it was now, but it went for quite a bit. But he actually Bill bought our painting. I don't know if you saw, this is the other one. Tom, I don't know if you saw this. This is something Matt Ray had done for us. I'm sorry, Matt Roberts. So it's a poster, and it has all the guest lists as if they're rock bands. It's like a old style rock poster. So we had a version. We had 2 of these. This is going to go in the warehouse, put up on the wall. The other one we had signed by every special guest that was there. And Bill won that for $1,200 in the auction. And, of course, all the money went to Doug and the con. And I said, "Why did you buy that? That's not something you usually collect." He said, he goes, "That's the first ever poster that y'all have ever done for the convention." And I was like, "Oh, you're right." I mean, because we've had posters before that were just the logo blown up, but this is actually the first original. And he also collects convention stuff. He goes, "I have the first one for GenCon. I've got the first one." I mean, he was naming off all the conventions he has, first ever posters. Like, makes sense now. Okay. You were just trying to corner the market on first convention posters.
Hey,
but he made a good point. It was he said, he goes, "I collect all this ephemera from conventions. I've got all these." He's got every program from every Gen Con. I mean, he goes through all the stuff he has. So he said, "Yeah, I definitely wanted y'all's first poster, especially since it was signed by all the special guests." I said, "That's okay. That makes sense." I mean, and if you're collecting it, it means it actually is worth something, because, Bill's a smart guy. So
on the poster, who are the headline acts?
The headline acts, as you would think, are
small guys.
Darlene,
okay,
Alan Hammock,
okay,
Janelle Jaquays,
okay,
and Diesel LaForce.
All right, there you go. Okay.
Which was pretty good. I mean, so second line was Steve Marsh, Steve Perrin, Roy Rasmussen, and Steve Winter. So,
all right, who's on stage F who is going to be playing at 5 o'clock in the afternoon?
Okay.
Or 1 o'clock in the afternoon.
Way in the bottom, we have Lloyd Metcalf.
Oh no,
Skeeter Green, and then Eddie and Matt, who are 2 of our friends that run Red River Con.
Okay.
So they were at the bottom. So yeah, Skeeter and Lloyd brought up the rear, I'm afraid.
All right, they're playing at 1 o'clock in the afternoon before everyone started drinking. Okay.
Yeah, they're the warm up act. Everybody throws stuff at. They're while they're waiting for the Who, and Jenna's.
Sadly, Mike and I are like roadies. That's about like.
Oh, you guys are the roadies. All right.
Yeah,
well, hey, at least you're backstage.
We get to drink with them on occasions when they have nothing better to do. By the way, TotalCon is in the house, Mike.
Oh, I saw
See ya.
Angelia. Nice to see you, Angelia. I'm excited to see you here. Yeah, and we're happy. Everybody's happy. Doug's doing better, but it's still he's got a lot of recovery. It went from he's probably going to spend 5 days in the hospital and about 2 or 3 weeks at home to he's going to be spending weeks in the hospital and months at home. So, we're just hoping he gets better in time for next year's con, and then so we'll see what happens for that. But he went through some really, really rough times the week of the con, which really sucked because we're trying to concentrate on the con. Yeah, we're waiting for news for Doug every day, and it's just one day it's good news, next day it's not good news. It went up, down. He had emergency surgery that Saturday for an infection. I mean, so it just went back and forth, up and down. So he's been pretty stable now for about a week, which is great.
It's good to hear.
Yeah, thank God. Between 2020 and early 2021, it's been a hell of a ride. We could really just wipe it off and just start fresh. Maybe pretend the year and a half of COVID never happened and all the events within. But
and Doug puts so much into that convention. I mean,
yeah, he does.
This is not a moneymaker for him. And anyone thinks that I'm sitting here, he's doing this so he can make a fortune. That's complete opposite of that.
I disabuse everybody of that notion really quick because we've never made money. So yeah, this is all for love of the game, man. Which is there's most conventions are there to make money. I mean, let's face it, they really are. That's one reason I love Alex Kamer too, because Alex Kamer. I mean, well, of course he's rich. He doesn't really need money. He's going to kill me for saying that.
Right.
But he doesn't care about making money either, which is great. He just wants to put on a really, really good con, and Alex puts on a really good con. And by the way, I threw Alex's name in there because signups for VIGs at Gamehole Con started this week. So if you are so inclined as you're a VIG, you need to sign up the next 30 days. Otherwise, you will lose your spot. And some other peon and dirty, unwashed masses will get to crawl up there and grab your VIG badge. So,
that convention runs like a German train convention.
Oh my gosh!
Oh my God!
Runs so well. Yeah, he does. He's just.
It is the German in him, very much so.
Yeah, me too. So hard. Sorry.
Listen, I'm German, but it's diluted. We got some Dutch in there, and some
it
Slavic
runs
stuff.
super efficiently, and it's amazing how it goes off. And TotalCon is another great con. I only went once. I went in 2020, the last con I attended live, and it was a blast.
That was right before shutdown. And that was
right before shutdown.
Yep.
Eric, you weren't feeling well. I remember sitting at the bar with you and Leach and drinking, and you were practically coughing out a lung, and I was like,
it's like I feel great.
But it's a good con too. Great location. I love the location too. There's so much in the immediate area. That's the one thing I find with a lot of cons, especially. I'm not going to say a couple of them, but they're so remote and so off the beaten track.
Gary Con.
Yeah.
I didn't say it. There's nothing around. And that one was like you just drove away and you just drove or walked and you were right in the strip mall.
Right.
And you could eat, buy
by the way, I love Gary Con and I love it being Lake Geneva, but Lake Geneva is 30 minutes away from everything in the state of Wisconsin. But it's a beautiful city and it's got so much awesome gaming history that it's fun to go there. But yeah, there's not a lot going on there or anywhere close around. This way, if I bring my wife to a con in Wisconsin, which I've been wanting to do for a few years, we'll probably end up going to Gamehole just because Madison's a beautiful city. It's a college town. The capital's there. There's a lot to do there. I don't know what my wife would do in Lake Geneva. It takes you, 2 hours to walk up and down the main drag, and then that's it. All right.
And here's the thing. Again, if, depending on what hotel you're staying at, but if you're staying at the one that frogs usually stay at, the hotel shuttle will take you within 3 miles.
Yep.
Just got to make your appointment, and Rach avails herself of that and goes down and, hits the commercial area of Madison and has a great time. So for people that aren't 100% wired into gaming, it's a great convention to go to.
Yeah. You guys at NTRPG, the hotel had that shuttle bus. So my wife came with me and it just came up my Facebook memories 3 years ago. 3 or 4 years ago, she came with me. We took that shuttle bus. We went to Grapevine, which had a lot of shops and restaurants. And,
Well, guess what, Tom? They don't have that shuttle bus anymore because of COVID.
I know they didn't have it last time I was there either.
Yeah, they stopped it. So. Well, yeah, but they actually stopped the year before, and then because of COVID, also, yeah.
Yeah.
So
it wasn't. We did an Uber too once, and it wasn't terrible. It was $7 or $8, which I was like, I really don't care. If I can just, we can go somewhere, chill out for a little bit while, and do that. So it worked out pretty nicely. But that's for me, that's a huge drawing point. Is that there's something to do outside of gaming.
Right.
That's why GenCon. I know I'm probably one of the only Frog God crew who goes to GenCon regularly, but GenCon is just. I don't think I game for more than a few hours at GenCon a day.
Sure.
I'm just hanging around with my friends and going around doing stuff. In Indianapolis, which turned out to be a much better city than I expected when they left Milwaukee. I was like, oh, Milwaukee's got this, that, and the other thing, but I was like, yeah, but Milwaukee shuts down at 5:00 in the afternoon, empties out.
I went to GenCon once. It was back in '93 or '94. It was Milwaukee, and one of my friends from New York. And I remember we were walking. We had a hotel that was maybe a couple miles away because we were on the cheap, and we got dropped off near the hotels and near the convention center. We were getting food, get our breakfast, and then we step out, and not only the streets empty on a Thursday morning, but people are waiting to cross at the lights. We're coming from New York. Jaywalking is a God-given right. It's one of your. It's like in the Constitution of New York State. Thou shalt jaywalk and not obey traffic signs as long as you're on foot. And we're watching no cars in the street. People are waiting to cross. We're like, what do we do? So of course we jaywalk because, we're New Yorkers.
Right.
But can't waste time. You gotta get online.
Yeah, actually, there's a funny story about jaywalking. I worked in New York for 5 years, and there was a newspaper that came out with the front page about jaywalking. And I look at the picture, I'm like, oh my God, it's my brother jaywalking. Not only jaywalking, he's got the cell phone going at the same time.
Oh dear. Oh dear.
Like, yep, yeah, I can see that happening very easily.
We become professionals at it. What can I
Yes,
tell
you could multitask. You have to multitask in the New York metro area. There's no way you're going to get by without multitasking.
No, certainly not. By the way, your Kickstarter has broken 3,500. 3,518.
Whoa. All right.
So, that Bill Barsh backed it. By the way,
I saw that. I saw it flash by. He doesn't play Pathfinder, so thank you so much, Bill. I appreciate it greatly.
He's just stuck it up to you, man. Come on.
Why would he suck up to me?
Yeah, why would? Well, I don't know. Maybe
he needs friends. He doesn't have a lot of friends.
Maybe he needs more writers. Maybe
his peeps can get in touch with my peeps, and we can talk.
I think that your peeps are you.
Yeah, pretty much. That's me. So he can talk to me.
So we
hold on a second. Somebody does not know about your Kickstarter. So I'm going to bring it up.
Oh, yes. There you go.
I used to run Polar Environments for Pathfinder 1E. This was a Frog God project that didn't become a Frog God project, so it is now coming from another source.
Yes, Mike, who does a lot of stuff, or I guess did. I'm not really sure. The Pathfinder work for Frog God, so that's how he got involved in this because
there's a lot of consistency in this.
Yeah, there's a lot of tentacles here. I mean, everything then just joins together, and just kind of like there's if you want to talk about what's the old saying, 6 degrees of separation in the gaming industry. There's 1 degree of separation. Everybody knows somebody here or there or the other place because it's such a small, insular group of people that bounce.
Yeah, pretty much. So be careful who you shit on because the person you shit on might be yourself. But in any case,
that's true.
Hopefully, Zach is buying something for you because I think Zach was the one that wanted to kill your project anyway. He was jealous, and so he said let's kill this Icebound thing. So
don't do it. Don't do it.
So you're saying Zach should back?
I think he should back. He's flush too. He's way flush. I heard.
Zach should back. Zach will back.
Zach
will back.
Yeah.
If he doesn't,
we're going to get the movement going.
Let's put it this way: if he doesn't, we know what he really thinks about Tom Knauss. So well, whatever, Zach, whatever you want to do.
Well, that's all right. I can see him at Game Hall.
Oh. So any last things you want to add about this before we move on to gaming general stuff, Tom? Any last pimp points of your for Icebound?
I just want to say, if you really love the Perilous Vistas books, I mean, by all means, please back this. It is, I think, personally, the best of all 5 of them, and all 4 of the previous ones were on Zeitgeists. If you follow Zeitgeist for Pathfinder, they all made his top 10 list or top 10 nominees.
Wow.
So I think this one is better than any of them. It really is very focused on this particular environment. And we'll tell you everything you want to know about the polls. So if you want to play in the Northlands for Frog God Games and you want to know the effects of cold weather and why it's cold and what it does to you, I mean, this is perfect for you. Even if you're not a Pathfinder fan. Again, I don't play Pathfinder anymore. I'll be perfectly honest. But, at least the first 4 chapters will give you non-crunchy Pathfinder material, non-crunchy material that you can use in any type of game. And the Pathfinder stuff, if you're good at 5e, I can usually convert a Pathfinder material in maybe 5 to 10 minutes per whatever it is I need to do. So by all means, back it, I hope. And, I appreciate it. And thanks to the people out there who have done so already. That's it.
Well, that's awesome. And I'm definitely going to look at it in the next few days myself. I got locked out of my account today. Some problems. I tried to enter my password too many times. So
too many times.
You should think I would know this by now.
How many times have we told you?
So what do we have on? So what do we have going on in the gaming industry that we could all talk about this week? Eric?
Oh, we got a lot of stuff, but
throw it out. Tom and I will give our expert opinions because we know this stuff. We're professionals.
All right. So and here we'll throw random ones out here. Encounter Critical. Now I don't know if you guys realize that Risus, the anything RPG that's been around for seems like forever and was pretty big when I resurged in gaming about a dozen years ago, was up for sale and was bought out by somebody who I have no fucking clue who they are, but somebody now has the rights to Risus and the obligations, Kickstarter obligations, which is the last thing I'd want to be buying when I buy an IP from somebody. By the way, we have $300 to $3,000 in Kickstarter obligations. I don't know how much exactly. Roll a D10 and multiply it by 30, and that'll give you a number. So you have that. So Encounter Critical is the fake game-ish, supposedly made in 1978, and looks like it was made in 1978, but really wasn't. I think it was made in 2008. But in any case, Encounter Critical, same person, John S. Ross, apparently having a fire sale on their IP, sold that to Wenger Santanis. That blows my mind. And Mike, I know there's something you want to say. I can see it in your face.
I think that's I feel bad because I think this fire sale means that John's not feeling well. And,
I agree. I believe it.
But honestly, Encounter Critical probably belongs with Wenger Santanis because it's just the kind of goofball weird thing that he would love and nurture and make his own. So that's probably in the best hands it could be in, except for maybe James Raggy. That'd be the only other person I think it would do. And James Raggy's got his own stuff going on. So
and James, not for nothing, James is not probably good at picking up somebody else's IP. I hate to say this, but you're right. Wenger is probably a good choice for this. I'd like to see it represented in a more modern format, not necessarily looking like it was done in '78. I'd like it. I'd like it to be like the White Box being redone as Swords and Wizardry. I'd like to see it as a playable, presentable rule set. I've looked at the rules, and they look like they could be usable, but to find the usable game within them is a little hard. So I don't know.
I mean,
So let me ask you a business question. What is generally the return on investment in buying other IPs? I mean, is it like, you just pick up a customer base that follow that IP, or is it really hit or miss depending upon how negligent the previous owner was in cultivating the IP?
Well, here's the thing with both of these IPs. The game itself, right? Rises and Encounter Critical are both free in PDF. So it's not like you are inheriting necessarily a huge paid customer base. In the case of Rises, there are outstanding Kickstarter obligations that, again, between 300 and 3,000, which I don't understand how you can have such a range of what you're possible. I guess depending on whether you can hand deliver every item on the list to the backers that have outstanding stuff. And you have your own ability to print in your house. I don't know, but it's not like per se, getting an IP, even like Swords and Wizardry would be an interesting IP if it were to go up for sale. Has a huge base, and it has a huge base of paid-for products that go along with it from Frog God or third-party publishers. I think pretty much everything for Rises is free, pretty much. And Encounter Critical doesn't have as huge a following as Rises does. So, but again, I found I just feel that for anybody to be picking up an IP that is known, I was like, Vanguard. When Vanguard emailed me, I looked at the email and I went, "Am I being trolled?" I mean, really. And then I see that, and I saw, oh, well, he has a blog post about it. Well, it's a pretty elaborate troll if he's trolling me. It's likely real at this point. And then I saw the tweet put up by John Ross, and I was like, and even he had to admit that, yeah, it's a little weird me selling it to Vanguard, but he figures Vanguard will do it right. By the way, Jen's here for the drawing. There is no drawing.
You already won. You won last week, Jen. Sorry, no more drawings for you. You won once. You can't win. You can't win again.
She's here for you, Tom.
Yes, she said.
I hope Zach knows that. I think we got trouble brewings.
But, I always found it interesting about the IPs. When I was working at another third-party publisher well before Frog God Games, a well-known sci-fi IP became available for RPGs. And the owner of the company had inquired about it. And the terms at the time were fairly low. It was like, I think it was about 20 grand to acquire the IP. This was a big IP. This was not like something very obscure. But the royalties and the other fees were just so astronomical that it was like, yeah, this is not worth pursuing. And I was always curious, some of them have bought, and I'm like, how much is the return on it compared to what it is? Or is this more or less to get exposure for a smaller company with by making a large investment on a known IP that has its own base of people to bring into the game? Right. So that's what I've always wondered.
I think it depends on the IP. And here's the thing. A lot of these IPs that we watched get picked up back in the day, like RuneQuest, Traveler. These, they were they weren't bought, they were leased. Mm-hmm. So
yeah.
And and then I'll say this for Mongoose. Like, I guess Mongoose said, "Hey, we can lose this lease, so let's make the rules open content. So if we do lose it, we can keep it." And I don't know how that worked or something that you like, I'm leasing these rules, but I'm going to free it to the world. But they did a decent job doing that.
I thought there were legal ramifications about copywriting rules. I thought there were some certain things you could copyright and certain things you couldn't, like Claire's IP.
There certainly is. But the thing is, to release rules under an open game license kind of skirts that, because you're saying if you agree to follow this license, then copyright isn't applicable. You're following our license on how to use our rules. To apply an open game license to rules that you are leasing but you don't own is weird. Because remember, especially in the case of RuneQuest, that got taken back, and then it got re-released as Legend. So,
I remember when Laboratory guy he bought the IP for Starships and Spacemen. And it was just because he liked
Dan
it.
Proctor.
Dan Proctor. It's just something he wanted to do. And if you've ever read Starship and Spacemen, it's basically Star Trek with all the numbers filed off. That's what it was.
And not even and it's poorly filed off. I mean,
it's obviously Star Trek RPG without having to pay the Star Trek people anything. And so he just always wanted it, and he bought it and reissued it. And then I don't know if it made any money or whatever. It's just something he wanted to do, something he was interested in.
He updated it then to the Labyrinth system. So you now had it completely old school compatible Star Trek for all intents and purposes. It was pretty interesting. Not a bad way to handle it. So and I've watched certain IPs bounce around, like Paranoia has bounced around so many times. It's like a ping pong ball. I can't even figure out who owns it now.
Yeah, I don't even know who owns it anymore. I was going to say the same thing.
So, and a lot of times you can't always tell if the system has been leased or it was the rights have actually been changed, because it isn't always the clearest way of showing it. Mm-hmm. I guess right now Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay is leased to Cubicle 7. Am I right? And it's leased by, I don't know whether it's by Games Workshop themselves or one of their subsidiaries. I've lost track. I should know better. I gotta admit that I'm not always fast as I used to be. Mongoose Stew has it, as far as I know. I'm assuming you're talking about Traveler. Is Mongoose right? Mongoose has Traveler?
I don't know. Maybe I was going to say somebody else, but I'm going to keep my mouth shut.
Well, here's the thing. Traveler is also Traveler 5 was also published by the successor company of Game Designer Workshop, which is Far something Publishing, and Traveler 5, which I was dumb enough to purchase on CD in PDF form and get a star named after myself with my ID card, was the most horrible.
Oh, that old scam!
The horrible piece of shit that I've ever seen. It was embarrassing to even look at. So there were multiple versions of Traveler that were in the wild at the same time. So who the hell knows right now? And then you got the Cepheus engine, right? Which is the reimagining via the OGL. The OGL is such a wonderful tool and certainly fucks up so many finely laid plans of publishers.
Yes.
Oh, shit, the OGL. Damn it. I didn't take that into account. Look what we spawned. So,
what else we have happened this week besides Wenger buying Encounter Critical?
Did you take the D&D survey?
Did WotC fuck something up? Oh, they fucked no. No,
they did.
Actually, I haven't, because although I was greatly amused by everybody's posts on the survey, and the fact there was an NDA, and the fact that it seemed to me, just from listening to people talk about it, it was explained later when we figure out what the survey was about, but it seemed very much like it was one of those, we're going to ask you a bunch of questions, but we really want you to answer this way, because we really just want you to confirm what our consultants have already decided. And I don't know. So if you took the survey, you tell me, was that accurate or?
Tom, did you take the survey?
I didn't even know there was a survey until you told me that I saw it on your blog the other day. What survey? What are you talking about?
What? What's a survey? I don't do surveys. Hello? Who?
Cool.
Survey. Click.
Yeah, if I don't recognize the number, I'm not answering. So.
Yeah, same here. So what it was is that Wizards of the Coast had a survey right after somebody sends me last year. Well, the last survey, an article in the last survey. I spoke about it, and I was like, "Oh my god, 11% of D&D 5e players are over 40."
11%.
Yes, 11% of 5e players were over 40.
I find that hard to believe.
According, 39% are identify as female. So for 5e,
I can buy that.
Right? So, and I think I forget what were the outrageous numbers? Oh yeah, 40 million D&D players in the world for 5e, which meant that even at 11%, 4.4% are over 40. So the next day, all of a sudden, they have a new survey out. So I go to do the survey, and I answer it honestly, which is, yes, I own the rules. No, I don't fucking play it. But yes, I click the pictures for things like Basic Expert and First Edition and Second Edition. And yeah, they asked me the basic, well, how old are you? And go fuck yourself, basically. I was like, wow, that was a short survey.
Wow, okay.
And you can't go, and for the cookies, you can't go back in and take it again. So I was like, all right, well, there goes my Google Chrome attempt. Let me go on with Safari. Now I'm like, all right, now I'm going to be the 5e player. So I do my questions and I answer. Oh, I DM 5e, like whatever, a weekly basis, some shit like that. And all of a sudden, I get all these questions, the weed out questions. Initiative in D&D 5th edition is rolled using what die? And I'm like, fuck. All right, Google searches. Because I don't remember, because I haven't read the rules since they first came out. So I'm doing, there were like, I don't know, 5 weed out questions to verify that you actually play 5th edition. And I was able to Google them all, or common sense one of them. And then it was like, okay, now I can hit with these questions about races. And am I happy with, I don't know, whatever 22 varieties of elves there are and their sub-abilities and feats? Highly satisfied, slightly satisfied, dissatisfied. I was like, random choices going back and forth.
Yeah, my eyes are glazed over just having you talk about it. Wow.
Not for nothing. Even if I was a 5e player, I wouldn't have. How satisfied am I with the way Dark Vision works? It works or it doesn't. Is it an aspect of the game? Great. What do I need to fine tune it? I think we see too much. I think we should have rules for graying out of objects. Should only be able to say. I was like, what the fuck? So I didn't answer those questions properly because it didn't go on to, and there were a lot of them. But didn't go on to the last part where people got to see a video. And the video was of a potential VTT in operation. So that's where the NDA pops up. For most people, for the article I read, though, apparently the NDA didn't pop up for some people when the video popped up because, they were having problems with the survey. So their plans apparently are a VTT for 5e. Now, remember, the last time they did this was for 4e, the big plans for VTT. That ended in a murder-suicide. So that was, I guess, that's a low bar to have to be able to get past, I think. If our programmers don't kill each other and then kill themselves, maybe we can actually get this out the door. But it also looks like it's a subscription base. Now, if they can make a VTT and get a subscription base off it, you're not going to see a 6th edition. Not for years.
There's no point.
There's no point. You've got a system that's going to be making you money. Now, here's something that I thought about after reading that article and remember the questions that I was asked. I would not be surprised if after they put out this VTT aimed at 5th edition, as my throat closes up. Hold on a second. God, the end of Concrete from last night. This is how the allergies. I know. I'm running low on whiskey. I should have bought more today. They ask questions about what editions you play. Now, they already support 2nd edition on Fantasy Grounds. Officially support 2nd edition on Fantasy Grounds. I could see them coming out with the VTT for 5th edition and then putting modular hacks in for prior editions to support, again, official. Why lose this to the OSR or to OSR games if you can play the original 2nd edition rules, if you can play the original Basic Expert on their VTT? And, again, subscriptions. Now they're talking about apparently merging some of the features of Beyond D&D into this new VTT. And being that the founder of Beyond D&D left his own baby to form a new company, which probably means he saw the writing on the wall, that I'm going to make the assumption here, I'm going to guess, and people will tell me if I'm wrong down the line, that Beyond D&D is either going to become an actual Wizards of the Coast product, not just a licensee, but be merged into the company, or it's going to cease being, but its abilities are going to be merged into a new product like this VTT. So, interesting times, because if you're a VTT right now, if you're Roll20, my God, I would be shitting my pants right now about my future paychecks, because this is a chunk of change that you're going to be losing.
Now, they said some people got chosen for a special quiz, and they had to sign an NDA, which promised huge fines, blah, 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 blah.
Yep.
So somebody brought up online, which I thought was funny too. So let's say I took that test, and I got the NDA, and I signed it, and I read a bunch of stuff. How on earth are they going to know if I don't call you up afterwards and say, Eric, here's exactly what was on the stuff I was supposed to have an NDA for. I'm going to tell you every single thing. Here it is. Just say it was an anonymous source. Don't say where it came from. How on earth are they going to ever trace that back to me? It's impossible.
And that's true. They can. I am quite sure that people that were shown this, not everybody was shown the same thing. Some people were shown probably slightly different variations, so they can get an idea of like what. Well, that was somebody from Group A, and I'm sure for the screenshots, if anybody took screenshots, I am almost guaranteeing you that there's something hidden in those screenshots that will identify a screenshot as to which viewing it came from. But yeah, just talking about it. Listen, Ed, I have signed NDAs, and good luck.
And then the what was brought up online too is that what would be even possible damages for breaking that NDA? Okay, so I told everybody that I saw in there you're going to have volcano elves. That's going to be the new elf. Oh my God, you ruined our game. Well, really, can you quantify that I ruined your game by letting out you're going to have volcano elves? I mean, I just thought it was funny. It seemed like, I know Pickens said there that it seemed like it was more something to just kind of gin up controversy than it was anything really serious. Or to make it seem like it's more exclusive. I want to get on there and get the NDA. That's awesome. I want to find out what's going on with WotC. Well, they won't tell everybody about it. I mean, that's the kind of people love to do that kind of stuff.
Did I sign an NDA when I was in the Friends and Family beta? Yeah, I forgot about that. But again, come on. Now, David just says, with all the VTTs out there, I don't see it working. I definitely see this working. They can put out a viable VTT that is. They
can put on exclusive content. They can put on exclusive content, which is awesome. Yep. That's where they're going to get people. Is they're going to have exclusive WotC/5e content that they are not going to share with other VTTs, Roll20, whatever. I think that's where it ends up being interesting.
Right. So I really think that's what's going to. Again, they are giving away money by even having like Fantasy Grounds or Roll20 sell their products. They're losing 30% of what they could be keeping. And if they have 40 million players, again, but there are 40 million D&D players in the world, especially after the year of the pandemic, where a lot of people were turning to VTTs. Now is the time to put out an official VTT. You do it before the movie comes out, because if that's already there, and people go to the movie, and one of the things, the ad you see before the movie, is for Dungeons and Dragons virtual tabletop.
Right.
Play with your group from around the world. I mean, think about it. And you have to get it out soon so you can work out all the kinks. So,
that's interesting. And I was talking to you about this earlier, Eric. I don't think this is necessarily a death knell or anything with Roll20, because what you need to do is when you have something like this happen, you look at what you can do that they can't do. And then you start doing that. Like, for instance, if I was Roll20, I'd say, okay, they're going to corner the market on 5e VTTs. What other VTTs are out? What else can we do? Can we go more into old school? Can we try different systems? Would a traveler one work? I mean, that's what you do, is you try to innovate. When you have your legs kicked out from under you, you try to figure out what can we do to make this still work for us. And so I don't think it's the end of their money.
I'm not saying that. Well, it's not a death knell, but it's certainly right now for Roll20, over half their business is from 5e campaigns.
Right.
Now, just to say they lose half of that, you're still losing 25% of your player base. That does change your business model. And yes, they'll need to refocus, because again, you're looking at 5e, and 5e is where they're getting a lot of their additional products sold, the rule books. People are buying this digital content for it. So I'm not saying that they would stop the digital content, but you're right. Who's going to get it first?
Yeah.
Their VTT. Who's going to get the better implementations? Their VTT. Why would they give competitors anything that's, again, they're going to want to get the most for their investment. I suspect if they're going this route, it's going to go one of two ways, which is obvious. But if Hasbro actually puts money into this, if Hasbro invests money into this, it's going to be a winner. If they actually bankroll, if they do it on the cheap, if they were doing the 4E1 on the cheap, where they had a romantic partnership doing the programming, who in their demo stole the dice roller graphic video from Fantasy Ground.
Oh,
if that's the level of expenditure you're going to be doing on this, if you're looking to get two people making like minimum wage programming your game, you're shit out of luck. But if you're willing to put a big budget into it, if you're willing to invest a couple of $1 million into this, if I was somebody at a VTT company out there right now, I'd be nervous, because that's a competitor that's going to take market share.
And also, how much of the overlap do you have there, Eric, between like the 5e players? You could say like 50% of the VTT people on Roll20 or Fantasy Grounds are quote unquote playing a 5e campaign, but how many of those same 50% are comprise the rest of your market, who are playing, on the side, Pathfinder or Traveler or Call of Cthulhu or whatever it is,
right. And right now, would they put out a generic rule set so you could play those other games? I don't know. I think that would be a dangerous one for them to do, because it would mean that they are looking to a monopoly and to kill the other VTTs. So other VTTs will survive, but you might see a paring down. All these ones that are popping up recently, there's a lot of them in the works. Everybody's seen this VTT market as big. We may see it shake out sooner than later, again, depending on the quality. If Wizards of the Coast does this on the cheap, it's like, oh, we got to do it from our current budget. All right, we can put $50,000 into this. You're not going to have shit, But if they put in 7 figures, again, I would be nervous if I was one of the major players. The smaller players probably aren't going to lose market share, because if you're a smaller player, you've got people that are looking at niche VTTs anyway, so they're not really looking to be playing the big boys. But if you are Fantasy Ground, if you are Roll20, I would be adjusting my future budget to assume that you're going to have less income coming in when this launches. But We'll see.
Yeah,
It's gonna be interesting to see what happens. Yeah.
I didn't envision WotC creating, a VTT that would accommodate these other games. I was more or less thinking that they would take their lion's share of the 5e people with them, and that those 5e people who are playing other games on these VTTs would just say, screw it, I'm just going to stick with 5e and this WotC VTT because it is so awesome that I don't need to play these other games anymore.
And that might happen too.
Yeah.
And a lot of it might be, Roll20 is a free option. You might have a lot more people using the free option. That's going, and Fantasy Ground, you've already got a customer base that has bought in. The problem is with, so that customer base is there. Hopefully they will still buy material for their campaigns, buy modules and rule packs. But when you think about it, why was back in 4th edition, the idea was that WotC was going to, I still remember this part, they were going to sell digital minis.
Yes.
And you were going to pay by the mini. So I want 4 orcs. You pay for each orc. You can't just duplicate them because we're going to.
That was a huge. Well, yeah, the fact
microtransactions.
The fact that they looked at the OGL as something they wanted to get away from was a terrible mistake on the 4th edition stuff part, because that's actually what made D&D so popular after a waning of the last part of the 90s, was the fact that the OGL came out and everybody was able to publish something. And so the fact they tried to control that so carefully through 4th edition was one of the main reasons why I think that failed miserably. I just, it wasn't open. It wasn't open anymore. So when it wasn't open, guess what? People aren't going to be writing adventures for you. People aren't going to be, submitting their own stuff anymore. And that's exactly what happened.
That's a game for the Paizo.
Yeah. Pick and Grin like Pick and Grin doesn't see WotC investing the money necessary to make this viable. I'm gonna make this suggestion. They tried that already, not investing the money to make it a viable thing. We saw it happen with 4th edition.
Yeah, I think they've learned by their mistakes, and they've made. Look, Eric and I rag on these guys all the time, but they've generally, when it comes to money decisions, they've made the right choice more often than not. The proof's of the pudding. It's the most popular version of D&D ever published. It sells more than any D&D ever published, and it doesn't seem to be waning one bit in popularity after 6 years. They seem to be on a money train, and they're COVID didn't derail them one bit. They're still trundling along,
And look at this way: if they believe they have 40 million customers, I'm not even going to say. I'm not even going to say 10%.
Like he was a hockey goalie and stop him.
Yeah,
he was about. I want to shut this off. I'm tired.
All right, so say they only convert 1% of that player base to a subscription model at $10 a month. That's still an income of $4 million coming in monthly. Wow. $50 million a year. And if your expenditures are $25 million a year, you're making a $25 million profit that you weren't making before. Those are the numbers that they're looking at. That's how they're visioning this. So yeah, I would expect that they're pushing to get low 7 figures invested in this, and I suspect that Hasbro has seen the number crunching, and I don't think they're going to do microtransactions. It's going to be a subscription. Right. Microtransactions is a thing of the past now. We've seen how it, it's not viable for what WotC is looking to do, but a subscription service. They know subscriptions work. They've seen Beyond D&D taking subscription money, which they're getting a cut of. It's not even them making the money off it; they're getting a cut. So this is a way for them to take Beyond D&D, and I don't know how many people subscribe to Beyond D&D, but I can be almost guaranteed that you're going to get a conversion rate of at least 50, maybe 70% of Beyond D&D players to the tabletop. So those would be interesting numbers to see. So yeah, they've hashed this out, and they're willing to put the money up front, I suspect. So it'll be interesting. Mm-hmm. Again, I like to be a Witches of the Coast naysayer and say, oh, they're going to chintz out and have the intern who was working the holiday weekend last year when I was in the hospital put up oh, we're so sorry that some of our older products are inappropriate in today's day and age, and write a horrible disclaimer
Yeah.
across all their digital products that even misspelled their own IP. Okay, they're not going to do that like this time. This is something that's being thought out. I could be wrong. They could pull a classic WotC, and I think it's more likely that they'll spend the money and then fire everybody at Christmas after the product is done. All right, all the engine, everybody did this. Great. You did a great job. You're all fired except for Timmy. Timmy, you're in charge of keeping the server up.
We're suing Weiss, or we're going to sue Weiss and Hickman again too.
Yeah. It's like Timmy. Listen, you sleep in the server room. We'll bring in food and we'll hold you down twice a week. All right. Thank you.
Well, talking about bad business decisions, I saw your most recent post about one of our favorite Kickstarter alumni.
Yes.
Oh, well, are we talking about?
He's an actor now. He was always an actor.
Well,
now he's a consultant, though. He's just a consulting, though. He's just consulting. He's not in charge of anything. Wink, wink.
Wink.
Yeah.
And when you oh jeez, I should go back to and actually find that the email response to Ken Whitman, because that as I read it online, I listen. I have, in my former position as a sergeant in NYPD, I have written communications for deputy inspectors and full bird inspectors and chiefs that was telling somebody to go fuck themselves in the most polite way, and I have learned how to do so, where they read it and they know they're being told to, go fuck yourself, and can't say a word because you never said it, and you said such a nice polite way. This wasn't even that polite, but yes, basically Ken is involved in yet another Kickstarter project, but he's not on the tin. Why is he not on the tin? Because Ken is toxic, and the company knows that he's working with knows that Ken is toxic, but apparently they believe that Ken has connections. So oh my god, what was the name of this fucking train wreck? The unbowing, the unmoving, the unwatchable,
the unselling. Yeah.
Okay, hold on a second here. I'm gonna have to. Oh god, yeah. I don't have the link up at the moment. Shit. God help me. You know what? You could if needed. Oh, actually, I have it at the Tavern, so I am half an asshole. Okay, so Ken's new movie is Unmortal.
Oh dear.
Where apparently a has-been pro wrestler in his second movie that Ken Whitman's been involved in. The other one was removed from distribution because Ed Kramer. Well-known
pedo, yes.
Connoisseur of child pornography and convicted of such. Hit Ken with a copyright notice and a takedown. I found that to be hilarious. Now, by the way, for folks that don't know, Kenny and Kramer were roommates back in the day. Probably when Ken claimed he wrote the first. That's
disturbing.
Movie.
Yeah.
The Whitlier or something like that, because we're playing off Ken Whitman's nickname of Wit. No shit. So in any case, in the Unmortal was produced in association with Little Monsters Entertainment. And Little Monsters Entertainment is Ken Whitman. It is his quote production company, and it was also his comic book store and a lot of other shit. But I've been told by good sources that apparently the LLC for Kenny's little company here is expired. It was not renewed, and therefore it is not valid. So just like Kenny, it's simply not valid. Yeah.
I can't wait to see this movie. This is gonna be on Netflix, right? It's gonna be great.
It's gonna be It's gonna. You never know. You never know. I've seen some weird ass shit on Netflix. Some like this is probably something that was on YouTube at one point. This is like a 12-minute movie, and yeah, sure enough, I can find it on YouTube. So they've done that with some of this stuff. This is here when they put a teaser. Now, isn't a teaser supposed to actually have something besides static images and names?
It's supposed to have something to tease you with.
Yeah, teaser's got to tease. Yeah.
Yeah. So when your highlights are, we've got all these important names involved in this project. Again, a pro wrestler retired that I never heard of. But listen, pro wrestler means he knows something about entertainment, right? He can probably do some basic acting. I'll give that much credit. Somebody else is a owner of a NASCAR racer team.
Ooh.
So I guess he's the man with disposable money, but he also has an acting part. So I guess owning a NASCAR team means you can act.
Why not? I don't see why not. Aren't those logical connections right there?
Sure.
Yep. And of course, Ken Whitman, ever being in tune with the modern era, he names 5 or 6 people involved in this and gives their photos. And I'm like, wow, we got 5 white men involved in this project. That's going to go over really, really well. But again, Kenny is Kenny. So, but
it's always fun to hear him still around and shaking your tree, Eric. I love that Tom brought him up, and I didn't have to, because that makes it even more delicious.
I crack up with these because these are hysterical to me, because these are the kind of people I have to deal with on my real job.
Oh boy!
So this is like, you're an amateur, actually, man. I can show you some real pros.
So now I know there are people out there who have claimed that they want to file legal action against Ken Whitman.
Good luck.
So I'm just going to say, if you have legal action to serve Kenny with, the filming of this production is in Louisville, Kentucky. And if you cannot find Kenny there, I'm sure you will find somebody who knows where Kenny is, where you can just say, you work on a production? Who's the gopher that signs for everything? Hey, jackass, sign for this and hand it to your master. So this is, by the way, this is the movie where Kenny was talking about paying people. I think it was $100 a day. There was something up on Facebook. Yeah. By the way, this is a non-union job.
Okay? Oh, of course it is. Yeah, of course it is.
And if you were a special guest at a con and you were offended that you had to share a room with another special guest that snored, since Kenny is supplying room, I am going to guess it's 4 to a room. So I am sure your $100 goes a lot farther with 3 snoring fucks in your room.
Oh god!
And he's probably mingling the sexes. Because
Wait. 4 to a room? Are you counting floor space too, or no?
No. I'm not counting the 5th person that you put in the tub. I've been there.
I'm talking the floor. I'm talking bare floor on carpet. I'm not talking on the tub. You're getting the carpet. Good luck.
Oh, okay. No, listen. My readers' convention was, oh my god, it was one up in Tarrytown. It was a science fiction convention. I went there with my friend. We went by Metro North, and we had to catch the last Metro North back to the city, or else we had a 6-hour window where we were just going to sit in the cold and do nothing. And wound up chatting with this young woman who, listen, I was like 22, 23. I don't know if she was of legal age. It got me nervous. And I don't know if the friends that she was staying with that were male were the legal age, but there were 4 of them to a hotel room. She was inviting me back and kicking them out. And then I was like, I go, I guess one guy's already sleeping in the tub. I guess sleeping in a hotel chair is probably a better choice. But I don't really think this is if she's legal age, I won lotto because I don't believe it. So Needless to say, I took the last train back, and my friend Andrew was very happy.
It could have been your
Otherwise-
segue into a Dear Penthouse Forum.
Yeah.
No, yeah, it could have been, but instead it was
Oh no.
the things that could have happened. But instead, I took I made the moral choice. I wasn't even morality. It was just like I could go to jail if I choose wrong.
It's more of legality, not morality.
Yes.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, it's like thank you very much for the offer. I'm extremely flattered. Okay, goodbye. I'm a geek, and I guess I was geeky enough. Thank you. So
Does this lead to my story about the first time I went to ACON?
yes, it does. Go ahead.
Which is the largest anime convention in the United States at the time. I don't know if it's bigger or not. This is back in the 90s. And I went one year and I saw some things. And then the next year they had to issue a special release that if you do not have a ticket, you are not allowed in the convention. Because, and I saw this happening, people would come from out of town with no reservation. They would camp out in the hallways, and they would sleep with you for a room if you let them in their room.
Wow.
We're talking underaged girls.
Yeah, I would imagine
and
that was part of the
And I'm not kidding. You'd walk up down the halls, and there was like dozens of kids just sitting against the walls. And when you get your key out, they go, "Hey man, can I come stay in your room?" And then they would offer, like, "Oh, if you do this, if you let me in there, blah blah blah," And you'd be like, "Dude, no. Chick, no, not gonna. It is not happening." But
and then I'll rob you blind.
Well, I heard. I mean, not necessarily. I mean, sometimes they just wanted to stay there. They figured, if I have to give a BJ to get a room, I'll just do it. I mean, whatever. It's going to take me 5 minutes, whereas I save $100, and they had to issue a release the next year saying this is absolutely not allowed anymore. And if we find you in the hotel and you do not have a hotel, if you do not have a hotel room key, you are out. Next year they had security guards up and down everywhere.
Wow.
checking both IDs.
Show me your passes.
Because that's what happens when you have a convention at a hotel sometimes, because North Texas is like that.
Yeah.
No, not like that. We have people sleeping for rooms.
Oh, I'm about to say.
I mean, Tom tried to do it one year. We told him no, that's not a good idea. But no, but when you have a hotel, you have all these other people mingling around. So you can have people that sometimes walk in there that don't have a ticket to the con or don't even have a hotel room. They just show up, and that's the problem. What was happening with ACON? All these people that didn't have a hotel room. They came from way out of town. They're like, well, I don't want to drive somewhere, and I don't have. There's no hotel rooms downtown. Let's just do whatever we can to basically get a hotel room. And I have a friend of mine. There was a female, and she was letting girls stay in her room just because she was worried about them. Because they were pulling that shit. They were like, hey, we just need to stay in a room. And they have these really skanky, sleazy guys who are like, 50-year-old dudes like, yeah, man, you come stay in my room. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
And you say, I got booze. I got a bottle of rum, and they're like 15. And she was like, no, you're staying in my room. She ended up having like 8 girls stay in her room just because she didn't want them run around there with the pervos. But yes, that was funny because yes, and they put a stop to that. I'm sure there was lots of talk about who would be legally responsible if something really bad happened, and most conventions don't want that kind of friction. So, and most hotels don't either. So yes, they changed that policy very quickly. So
I'm kind of surprised about that because one of my friends who owns another RPG company was telling me that his most lucrative con by far was an anime con.
They make a lot of. There is money.
He was selling RPGs, and they were throwing money practically at him.
I have heard the same thing, Tom. And I know a few people that have worked. The last anime con I went to, it was when my goddaughter was there, and a friend of hers, and her father and I went there with them just to kind of chaperone. There was one RPG dealer in the whole hall. Everybody else was, they were selling anime stuff and movies and books and stuff like that and candy or whatever. And oh my God, he was like from Corpus Christi. It wasn't Ingo, but he was like from down south somewhere, and he was making money hand over fist because he was the only RPG dealer there. And those kids come to those anime cons with a lot of cash. Yeah. And it was nuts. And plus, all the dealers were doing pretty good. It wasn't just, this one guy.
No, it was obviously not from turning tricks. Sorry, I had to ask.
Look, lots of stuff goes. You talk to somebody who goes to a furry con too. Yeah, We have one of the we have one of the largest
man.
we have one of the largest furry cons in the United States in Dallas, and I've heard tales. It's disturbing. So,
I'm already disturbed. Just
not all of it
thinking
is,
about
but I mean, look, it's like, you know, gamers, we don't all worship the devil or do whatever they say gamers do. Same with furries. There's some people that just like dressing up in costumes and coming out there, but then there's always that 10%, right? That just throw everything off for everybody.
You're the exception that proves the
Yeah.
rule.
I mean, gamers are the same way.
Yeah.
You have that 10%. You have the one guy that doesn't take a shower all week, you know, and just like, oh dear God, you know, and you always. So yeah, most of those other groups are like that, furries and anime, and they all have the, you know, that small percentage that just gives the bad name to the whole hobby.
Yes, yes. My one friend used to refer to them as human veal.
Like Pex does in our hobby. Pex does that in our hobby. He gives a
Poor
bad
Pex.
name to all the.
I have to give Pex credit. That guy works his butt off. I mean, well, he did for me when I was doing
He
Tawal.
does. He's a good.
He sent out thousands of emails.
That's because that's what he likes to do. He likes to call meetings and send out emails.
Yes.
That's what Pex loves to
That's
do.
what he was great at, but he sent out so many of them. We were talking before the show. Some of the shows that I ended up on, I was like, who are these people? What do they have to do with gaming? I was on a comedy show. What am I doing on this?
But by the way,
That's all, folks.
we have a few minutes to talk about Tohoidal a little bit. So I finally got my Tohoidal stuff. That's a pretty dang good setting, man.
Thanks.
I liked it. I liked it a lot.
Yeah, Tawal was cool. I mean, we had a lot of fun doing it. Me, Tim, and Rob, we're all friends. We all go back a while. So it was really cool because Tim and I have known each other for 20 years. And we've never really gotten an opportunity to work together because, you know, he was either doing something for Paizo and floating around that era, you know. So I worked a little teeny bit with him on Razor Coast, but not very much. So this was like the opportunity I got for all of the, hey, can you fill in and do something at the last minute because so-and-so or this person dropped the ball. Here's your campaign. You can do whatever you want with it. So I'm like, okay. So I said, you know what, this is a great chance to bring some of my friends in. So I was able to do it and work with him, and it was awesome. But, you know, it was really a lot of fun. I really enjoyed writing it. You know, and if I never write anything again, which I don't think is going to happen, I hope it's not going to happen, but, you know, I'm glad I got the opportunity to do it. It was really cool.
So why do you think, so how do you pronounce it? So John asked a good question. Tawal. Okay, so yeah. Tawal, why do you think there's more interest in Mesoamerican society type adventure? Because they have a really interesting lore. There's great history there. It's really kind of a cool, kind of a creepy setting, man. When you think about what went on in the, you know, Aztec and the Mayan culture and the South, I mean, that's some pretty creepy shit that some of that stuff happened. Why do you think there's not more interest in that stuff?
You know, I just think it's so different than what we're so used to.
The European
yeah,
model
because
of
it's
fantasy.
just so, you know, I don't want to say, I think one of the drawbacks that people find is the fact that the empire collapsed so quickly when the Europeans came. And I think that gives some kind of a little bit of a perception that's because it was, you know, they didn't have the weapons or the technology to keep up with the Europeans. That really wasn't true. There were a lot of factors that were involved in it. So I think the fact that you can't use, you know, that steel wasn't prevalent or wasn't around, you know, metal armor, those kind of things are kind of drawbacks, you know, like, well, you know, I can't run around in plate mail armor. I got, you know, this leather or something. So we did some things in the book to try and compensate for that. You know, so that was one of the things I think that was really key for that was to do that, you know, so we took the natural progression that, okay, they had rubber. It's not the rubber we think of that you can inflate a ball, but it was actual rubber. And we said, okay, well, what's the natural progression? Well, they learned how to vulcanize it. Okay, so now they have vulcanized rubber. So now an item that you can use that is, I don't want to say comparable, is comparable to steel, and trying to make that make it kind of equal. So, and I think we really did a lot. I did a ton of research on, you know, the culture, the language, the history, everything like that. So we had something that really felt authentic rather than something that just seemed like pulled out of B movies and, you know, thrown in here and make, you know, just like some cheap kind of imitation. Right. So I think that really helps.
Unfortunately, our industry, the RPG industry, suffers from the original fact that the template for pretty much every version of D&D for years was the quasi Tolkien's, and right. And then if it wasn't Tolkien, it was Elric / Conan /
right.
Whatever fantasy book was popular, and people were so reluctant to get out of that, to get out of those narrow lanes. That was the one lane, because everybody wants to play an elf fighter, or they want to play a dwarf, fighter or whatever, and so they were really reluctant to get out of that, and it probably wasn't even until the 90s that we started. That's when we started seeing stuff like Spelljammer and just really oddball stuff where somebody said, let's take a chance on doing something totally different, Dark Sun or Birthright or Ravenloft, stuff like that. That was a 90s thing, really.
Yeah, I actually heard it. I don't know if it was Eric who told me the story or somebody told me the story that Casey teaches in Wichita, and he has students who are he has a lot of Hispanic students, and he says that some of them were like almost moved to tears when they saw this.
Wow, that's
awesome.
He
did something they felt they could relate to with their their culture, and I was like, wow, oh my gosh. I had someone from Mexico approach me. I did an interview with him. It was in Spanish. I only speak un poquito español. I would have been lost if you talked to anything really complex. So he did an interview, and he wanted to put it up on his big Mexican podcast. Whether he did it or not, I don't know. I asked him if he had done the translation yet, and he was kind of like, well, I got other things going on. But I'd be curious to see how much breakthrough we would make in a Mexican market in South America and Central America with Spanish translation of the book. Obviously I can't do it, but if there's somebody who could do, that'd be really cool.
I can't.
Zach says the sales numbers are good, especially in the UK.
Yeah, no, I think we did pretty well. I mean, the Kickstarter needs $60,000, which I think there were a couple of people who were crossing their fingers and hope we were going to fund, and we did. And then we funded the first day. And I remember I was at a golf outing with my brother when it launched. And normally I would be like, oh yeah, this Kickstarter's launching. Try and check it out. And I'm sitting there and I look at it and I see it launched, and I look, it's like $100. I'm like, oh no, it's good. So I go out, I play a few holes, and I click it again. It's like $7,000. I'm like, oh my god, what the heck happened? What happened from here? So, I'm really pleased with how it did, and I hope people like it, because I think it's really something totally different and outside the beaten path.
Check it out. We have go to Frog God Games website now. We have the PDFs for all the for the rules, the campaign book, and all the goodies, all the adventures. I think I'm missing one adventure. I was looking the other day at what I got, and I may have not ordered everything. I've got it in PDF, but I don't have it. And I like to have the printed copies too. So
I got the leather one.
Oh, of course you did. So you can flex on it. Yeah, put it up on the shelf, point it out where your name's like, you can see your name.
Yeah, I'm in rarefied air because I think the only two people who have leathers are probably going to be Bill and Matt.
Ooh. Well, they owe you, man. They do. They definitely owe you.
Yes. Those many late night calls. Can you write something like tomorrow for 2,000 words?
And see, Zach wonders why he's like, you know how to write good. Why don't you write for us? That's why. Because I see what happens to guys like you and Casey and all the guys that once they know you write, it's over. Mm-hmm. Then when they need something at the last minute, they need 14,000 words in 2 days. Boom. You're know how to write. You're good at this. Like,
I will tell you my record is this is not Frog God. I was told I needed to write a book. I had 17 days to do it, and it was 77,000 words.
Oh my God!
Jesus.
Well,
and I did it.
don't tell me what it was, because I
won't tell you what it was. It was actually pretty good, but it was crazy. It was like,
wow.
I was there writing 5,000 to 6,000 words a day. It was going,
that's nuts.
Yeah, it was. I would never do that again. I don't think I could ever do that again.
Was it based on an existing idea, or did you have to create it whole cloth?
It had an existing premise already.
Oh,
It
that's
had
good.
some stuff. It was one of those things where they took like open submissions from people.
Ah, okay.
So I did have some of that to work with. Granted, some of it wasn't that great, so I really had to end up rewriting large parts of it. But it was actually kind of cool when I look back every now and then. I see some of the names who are in there. I'm like, oh my god, that person submitted this and that and the other thing. So it was actually kind of neat when I was looking back, and a lot of people who were heavy hitters who were submitting to it, and I had to go through their stuff.
Zach said, "I bet it was Troll Lord Games."
No, it wasn't Troll Lord Game.
Oh, what a throw into the bus that is! Wow.
It was not Troll Lord Game.
If any Chanels are listening to us, that was Zach that said
Yeah.
that. Not us.
No, it wasn't them.
Gosh.
No, it
Oh,
wasn't.
We were
man.
good. We were
No,
good.
no, we love Troll Lord Games. Not like Zach. Zach's always making fun of him and saying bad things.
I think it was Lesser Gnome actually who did
Oh, yeah. I thought Death and Taxes was a little rushed. It makes sense now.
that.
Makes a
Yeah,
lot
you
of
know, they
sense.
need somebody with actual experience in that field, so they had to run.
Oh, and taxes. Come on, yeah.
Yeah.
Go figures.
Well, I guess we've got our 2 hours in. Tom didn't think we were going to do 2 hours. He thought you didn't think we'd have enough to talk about.
Oh, I've always got enough to talk about.
I
can
know.
babble on
I know
forever.
you do. I know you do.
It's like working a con booth. Come on, man.
I cut you a deal.
Yeah. One last
Whoa.
con story before we can go.
Oh, boy.
You guys know Brian Berg, right?
Yes, Brian
Yes.
Berg. Yes.
Okay. So Brian does not like when somebody comes to them and talks about their character. So I was at it was GenCon, and I was recruited to help work the booth with Cobalt, Legendary Games, and Brian's company, Total Party Kill. So I'm sitting out there, and this guy's just he's just talking to me for like half an hour, trying to sell him books and products. Just keeps wanting to tell me about his character. So I'm like, you know what? I've got to run. But you see that guy over there? He
Oh,
would love to hear about your character.
you point out Brian.
Went right to Brian. He made
You're a
beeline
bad
for
man.
him.
Oh,
I
that's
see
great.
him talking to Brian. I see that glazed over look coming over look over his eyes, and he just sees me laughing, and he's just like flashing me the nastiest dirty look he could. It's like, oh, I can't believe you did that to me.
I have a suggestion. Everybody, next con, everybody do that to Tom Tullis. And if you do that, Zach and I will give you a special prize at the Frog God booth. If you go to Tom Tullis, Zach, are you in on this?
Oh, I will totally beat that. I will do.
We'll go to Tom
Tullis.
Tullis and tell him about your character. Don't tell him who told you, just tell him that, and you will get a free something at the Frog God booth. I bet you Zach is absolutely in on that. So,
I could tell Tom Tullis worse stuff than that.
yeah. Because Tom Tullis would love to hear about your character. He's just really into that stuff. Definitely.
Right,
Do
and
that.
you can't tell him when he's walking from location to location. You got to tell him when he's
No.
behind his Fat Dragon Games booth.
Well, he never
Nobody
works.
else is
He never works there though, so I don't know if he ever
Well,
catches him.
true, but when you do catch him there, you have to be there because he can't just walk away.
No, you have to bear. Skeeter
Tell him
rubbed
about what
his
your character
hand.
did with his 3D terrain.
Oh, I remember that. Yes, TPK booth was next to us one year, and Skeeter had his way with the booth. That was disturbing on pretty much every level. The only thing more disturbing is when he rubbed his junk on me. But
Yes,
besides that,
No,
it was.
I was a witness. Oh,
And we're not going to talk about it again. We're gonna sign off here in just a second. So I'm not going to relive that trauma. You can't make me do that. So
you know, if I put that video up on YouTube, will YouTube take it down because of standards?
I would report it and say it's sexual abuse, and I'm one of the people that are being abused. And please take that down.
Please.
I'll have your license. Damn it.
My license. You're not having my license. Come on, I've been threatened by people like Ken Whitman. Come on.
Oh well, yeah, I can't beat that.
Yeah, you can't. He promised me federal agents at my door.
Yeah.
I was like,
Good luck.
Well, he played one on TV once, didn't he? He played he played a bodyguard.
no, he played a security guard that got
That's
tased.
right. Yeah, he got
I
tased.
thought he played something in The Walking Dead. I thought he was a zombie.
No, he did.
He played he played a bad
was
guy.
The pickaxe jackass
Right.
with no speaking
Right.
role.
But
So
he
then,
was emoting. Didn't you see it?
Then
Yeah.
he made it.
He was
Then,
method
by the way,
acting.
he made a movie about his character, who was an extra, and back in the scene where you barely see him, he made a movie about that character on his own. You remember that, Eric?
Yes.
Yeah, it was a short film based on Pickaxe Guy.
Not short enough, but yes. And his other role was, like I said, in that a short-lived reboot of MacGyver.
Yes.
And I actually had to watch the episode just so I could see Ken get
So
tased.
get
Because
tased.
it brought a certain amount of warmth to my heart, and my heart like swelled to like twice its size, like the Grinch. I was like, oh, look at this.
I saw that episode, Eric, and you know what I thought? This is the saddest thought. Our last talk about him.
Okay.
But this is the saddest thought. I thought he should be doing that. That's the kind of role he could play, and he doesn't have to do all this grifter stuff and cheating people, rip you off. Just play a big mean guy. You could have extra roles all over Hollywood. You could do that all day long. There's guys that do that they just play the heavy. He was perfect because he's a big, lunk-headed looking guy. He could easily do that in movies, but instead he chose to be an asshole. And that's something he could definitely have done. I was thinking when I was watching that, like, he's perfect for that. He's like any guy in one of those cop shows that get, there's a big guy that doesn't speak and has a gun, and but no, he wants to be an asshole. I just don't get it. I mean, that's something he's good at. He was as good at playing a non-speaking part of a giant lunk-headed guy as anybody I've ever seen.
If anybody else I've seen.
Yeah, he did the best job with that I've ever seen.
So Ken, just so you understand, Mike is giving you this advice. He's not asking for a fee.
No, and I'm not hiring you either, Ken. So sorry.
No. But Mike is really giving you heartfelt advice.
I am.
And as I've been saying, when I close out a lot of these recent casts, and I always I always do the God bless everybody, but especially Ken, because he needs more blessings from God than the average person out there does. Just to be a relatively well-adjusted human being. So this could be a step, Ken. Just get tased more often on,
I mean, there's plenty of shows. He get tased on Law and Order. He could get tased on, I don't know what I mean, on Chicago PD. I mean, he could get tased on a lot of shows. They'd love to tase him.
Yeah,
all right, I'm through. I'm not talking about that idiot anymore.
All right. It's a good place to wrap it up. Tom, this was great, man. We haven't had a chance to hang, like you said.
Good to see you, man.
Yeah, it's good to see you guys. Yeah, I will be at I'll see you at Game Hall if you're going to be there.
Oh yeah. I'm going to Game Hall, so I'll be there.
The game plan is Game Hall.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Again, Tom, thank you. You'll be here before we leave. I'm going to throw this up real quick.
One last Kickstarter. How many pledges did we got? We got one.
Let me refresh the page and see if anything has changed.
Oh, okay. We're not refreshed.
Refresh, goddamn you.
And how many?
35-18. So you picked up.
Oh dear, we got you one guy maybe.
That's all right. That's all good. One is better than none.
We'll try to get this.
We do what we can when people watch this later. Listen, if you're watching this later, you should be backing this because we don't want Tom to come out there and break a leg. It won't be his.
Don't force me to be the guy who gets tased in movies, okay? Go back this.
Oh God. So folks, as always, listen, none of us are medical professionals. We're still we're in the tail end of the world with COVID. There's normality returning, but please use your common sense. Keep yourself, your friends, your loved ones, your family healthy and safe. You can't help others if you yourself are not well. So, common sense. Be safe, be well. God bless. Like I said, especially Ken, because he needs a special kind of blessing. Be safe, roll your dice well, and I'll be back tomorrow. Mike and I will be back next week. We got some special guests lined up, but I'm not sure if we have anyone lined up for next week. We'll figure it out before then.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
We always do.
Awesome.
All right. Later.